Hi, it's so lovely to meet you. How are you?
Well, so lovely to meet you.
Oh, I'm so excited to be interviewing today. I'm Mia Sato. I'm from NextShark. But I just wanted to start off really simple, which, I'm sure you've gotten these questions already, but first of all, what was your favorite cultural reference or joke or interaction that you sort of included in the series while you were
Oh
filming?
man, there's so many. It's hard to pick one. Like I guess maybe chocolate hummus, just the cultural appropriation of the hummus and what's happened with that is kind of infuriating, and just kind of playing with that is it was fun. But there's so many, the shoes. There's like so many little nuggets throughout the series that I just absolutely love. There's not one that I like more than the other. Maybe the shoes thing is such a big deal for me personally. Like I find it really gross when people wear their shoes in their own house, like coming out of New York, and it's like watching reruns of Seinfeld and see them come off the street and then jump on Jerry's couch and their feet are all on it with their shoes. I'm like, ah, like things like that really make me laugh. But there's a lot. There's a lot throughout the whole series that just I really I really enjoy.
Yeah, no, for sure. And when you talked about chocolate hummus, like that, I think was one of my favorite scenes. But what followed after was definitely a little bit like a tone shift. I actually wanted to ask because the series deals with themes of gun violence, such as in that scene, and displacement and drug use and fear of deportation, among a lot of other things. I was wondering if there were any topics that you and the team sort of initially wanted to feature about the immigrant Palestinian experience that you didn't really get to.
Um, there's so much to unpackage, right? You have 8 episodes, 30 minutes max per episode. It's like 22 minutes, right?
Mhm.
There's so much to go through, so many characters, and you got to give everybody their time and their air. So there was a lot that we put into that short period of time. So I'm very proud of what we're able to get into the show. You're talking about the flashbacks, the origin stories of my mom, myself, my brothers, my dads. You're talking about like fish out of water elements in America. There's so much more that I wanted to do with that, and hopefully we get to do it with the season two. But I felt like we did a really excellent job of spreading it out and saving it for the trial episode, for the courthouse episode, to get a lot of that frustration out and the story out. And it all came to a head in episode 8. I think it really does an excellent job, personally, of balancing everything as much as possible, because you have the girlfriend and her background, which is equally important, Mexican American, dealing with her own issues. And although that she is a boss and just ran things, which is so amazing to have such a strong female figure in a show that ran a male dominated world, right? Like as a mechanic shop was so cool to see for me. Something I've never seen on television. It's exciting from that side, in a serialized show. So it was just really important to give all that time, and I think that we did a good job balancing it all. There's a lot to unpackage, so much to go through. Do we do it all? Of course not. You're talking about something that's been going on for over 70 years, and so it's just going to take time to spread that out and to get more and more of the story. And it was very important to me to create the Gulf War effect too. Like people are forgetting about that. To really what happens in generational trauma here, okay, with statelessness and displacement. It's not just fleeing your own country, but what if something else happens in that next country, which in our case it did, and we fled and ended up in Houston, Texas. So this creates another layer of trauma that we wanted to talk about, that I specifically wanted to make sure to put in the show, because it's such a significant thing in the world that still we're dealing with to this day, right? Is still going on
Mhm.
today. Who's in charge of Iraq? Who's doing what? Uncertainty in Syria, Palestine, Lebanon. Like this is still going on, and these political decisions have consequences, and it falls unfortunately on the people.
For sure. And I really enjoyed how each character was able to be fleshed out. And so I really, for me, it was a really cool way to be able to see humor, but also like a genuine sincerity behind all these stories. Speaking of characters, I actually wanted to ask, but throughout the series, like olives and olive oil, those were big themes. And for me, I did a little bit of critical English class analysis, but I was thinking with these aspects, especially with olives, some cases they become conduits for moments of connection and like comfort and belonging. And as you were exploring the series with the team, I wanted to ask, like, was the focus on the tradition and the plant itself meant to explore the object itself
Yes.
as like a form of emotional sanctuary for Palestinian characters?
What a beautiful way to articulate it and put it together. My want a job? This is a really great way to put it together. No, absolutely. All right, so where do we start? So obviously, like there's, to me, it's obvious, but maybe to the world, it's not. You know, destruction of olive trees is a huge thing that Palestinians deal with, where their lands are taken away and their trees are destroyed, um, which is very sad and disheartening. So, and then olive oil has a lot of properties, spiritual properties and healing properties. So we want to put that in display also in the show, as well as there's the olive branch, right? The symbol of peace as well. And then you have the parallels of the, you know, Texas used to be Mexico, and maybe it belonged to us, not belong to you, you know, that kind of element as well. And then you have the purpose that for my mother, you know, the for her touchstone being her home and being close to that, for her to feel like after all these years, what is my purpose? My kids are all grown. Like, what is my thing now? What do I do? What makes me happy? And for her, it's making fresh olive oil from scratch, and that is her way to always be tied into her roots. What a beautiful thing! And I made sure to put a song on top of that that was made famous in a show called Hawar, which Dureid Laham made so many years ago, and I've only seen my beloved father pass away many years ago cry twice. Is when my grandmother passed away, my mom's mom, and when he was watching this particular scene from the show, I was like 6 years old. So to be able to now, this many years later, put it in there as a symbol of love for mothers and tipping the hat to my mom makes me like emotional right away. But it's just something that is just so timeless and so beautiful. I was able to do.
Yeah, I really enjoyed watching the show. And as we close out our time, I just want to end on one last question. But just to sort of like tie it all together, what was the most emotional scene that you and the team were sort of able to create in the show for you?
Um, Man, it's hard to pick one because they're all different uh,
Mhm.
emotionalities involved. I would say the most painful one for me to do was biographical. It was about how I found out about my father's torture, which is in episode 3.
Mhm.
And this is when I realized that when I was doing the scene and I broke down afterwards, I realized I never really mourned it in my life. You know, in my actual
Mhm.
life, I never really I glossed over it because it already happened and my dad had already passed away from it for quite some time at that point. And I didn't really like focus on it to where the scene forced me to just see it, hear it, almost like smell it, see it, that I just lost it. It's beautiful though. Like I'm very blessed to have that. It was really cathartic for me. And I think it will be for many people that experience that as well and see it. But that was like painful, and even affects me to this day. Like just thinking about it, because it was somebody that I'm the only one that can really understand how deeply painful it was to do it. And I'm so glad I was able to put on something that was so authentic and real and honest and grounded. At the same time, it's a terribly scary thing to do, to make yourself so vulnerable on camera like that. So I'm just very happy that I was able to do it. And hopefully that it resonates and gives some people peace and understanding, and maybe they can deal with those things properly in their own lives so they can have spiritual growth and mental growth. But all of it was very painful. All of it was like in a good way, you know, in a really good way. I mean, like recreating the scene in the episode, like flashback in episode 5 was so surreal for me in my middle school where I grew up, across the street from where I moved in, and then having the flashback in episode 8, me taking money from my dad's register which was real, in my life. And I like never forgave myself for it until I had like a profound dream with my father years later. It was just like that kind of stuff, like making sure it was grounded, it was real, authentic to my story, and then being conscious of everyone else in the show and allowing everyone the space to grow in it as well, while not being like a hat on top of a hat on top of a hat. Yeah, but it was beautiful.
The authenticity definitely comes through. I think I'm at the end of my time, but I want to say that thank you so much for the series. Thank you and the team for the series. And it's not easy to keep talking about your trauma over and over again, especially in interviews. It's intimate. So I hope you take care of yourself. But thank you so much for spending this time with me.
Maya, you're so kind. Thank you so much. You're incredibly thoughtful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.